Welcome to Real Money Talks. Real strategies from the moneymakers and the world changers that you can use to make millions, keep those millions, multiply your wealth, and build your team. Here's your host, author of 5 New York Times bestsellers, money expert on Dr. Phil, CNN, CNBC, The Street TV, Fox News, and The View, Laurel Langmeyer.
I'm going to head back to some of the questions. So Melinda says, does Weldon have any insight or opinions on where the airlines were going to recover, when they're going to recover?
Yeah, I mean, travel, it's really going to depend on travel.
Yep.
I personally would not invest in an airline industry just because, I mean, people are getting used to the Zoom and finding out that there's a lot of, they can still conduct business virtually. And it's really a lot of the business travel, I think, that kept the airlines afloat.
Oh, sure.
That obviously has pretty much ceased. And so until that comes back, and which I don't think it's going to come back to the same extent that it ever did, I think, again, they're going to recover, but they're going to have to do a bit of changes.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to do quite a few. And as you and I know, and we have other, clients and colleagues that, look what I did. 15 years I flew, have my own plane. So private aviation is soaring right now. Prices are soaring. People are flipping built planes. And I think that we're going to see a bigger surge on that side than back in the commercial airlines. And even companies, I think, buying more and more companies will buy their own private planes. So at least that's what we're hoping on the other side of this. It's interesting, though. JP Morgan, was it JP Morgan? I don't know, Thomas is our historian out there. I think it was JP Morgan did a productivity report. I haven't personally seen it, but I've had a lot of our clients talk about it, that if you were transactional, being away from the office, that productivity has stayed up. But in the marketing, the creativity, project planning, that has actually seen significant reduction in productivity of people saying where they need to connect with other people and be on collective projects. So interesting to see what the companies will do with reports like that as they come back out. Yeah. Commercial real estate is going to suffer desperately. I thank God don't have any. Thank God, right?
No, I would especially, you're looking the tech industries, and anywhere that's big tech, I think commercial properties around the tech industry are going to be suffering.
Right, Joe. Jason wants to know, can you deduct more than you cannot deduct? Yes, is I think probably the question. If you want something to be deductible, get creative. I'd say we agree with that.
If you do get audited, it has to be ordinary necessary. There has to be a business purpose to it. But again, it's about changing your mindset. It's thinking about it, it's processing it, and then documenting. It's really documenting your mindset and documenting that. That's really kind of the key thing is, because again, you can do whatever you want on your tax return. It's only when you get caught.
That's so helpful. That's so helpful. It's only when you get caught.
And if you do too much, if you get caught, it can be really bad. That's what happens is when they come in and they audit you, you have to have this documentation. If you don't, you're going to be in big trouble. Lots of penalties, lots of interest. So you have to, and documenting your mindset, because they're not going to audit you for 3 years. It's going to be 3 years ago. And it's really difficult to remember when you went to that meeting or that you bought that Starbucks, why that Starbucks was a business deduction. There's a lot of different apps that you can get that, you can put notes on it. You can save the receipts if you want. You can write on the receipt what it was. That goes a long ways.
Debbie says, which she thinks that Delta will be better off than the rest. I don't know about that. Having flown a little bit, I can tell you they're not high on my list. As far as, my joke is doesn't ever leave the airport is what Delta stands for. I'm sorry, Debbie, if you like them. I like American. Actually, I like private the most.
One of the things with the airline industry, which I think is probably, the discount tickets. There's going to be, I think, a separation between and maybe it's a little bit more of elite travel airlines and then discount airlines. I think they're going to have to separate themselves a bit between the two because there's most definitely a couple different operating models.
I think they are. It's shocking that Allegiant Air is actually the sponsor of the new Vegas Raiders field, their stadium. It's shocking that they stepped up for that. But I also think that they wanted to capture, everybody flying in for a Raiders game.
Right. I mean, they want to, I think, compete a bit with Southwest, who, holds a tight, lock on that airport.
Yep. So what do people need to be doing now? So we're headed to the end of the year. Those of you that are already, you would have, that are in the extension process, you would have filed last week. And then looking into October, what else should people be doing now to prepare for the end of the year? I mean, I think that they need an assessment with you if they haven't. And then talk maybe about like a 3-year tax review. Like, what do they need to be doing right now?
So right now, they need to get their accounting records up to date and in order. I mean, because if we don't have that information, we don't know where to go or where we've been and what to do. So we've got to have that. Then I would say the next step would be to do a review of at least last year and, probably the last 3 years. Look at the review for those prior years. Because when we look at that, we can say, okay, this is where you are currently this year. This is what you've done in the past years. We can look at the different asset allocations, the different tax deductions that we've taken. Then we can come up with a strategy and basically a tax savings and being able to look at okay, now let's possibly, how do we look at, maybe we look at oil and gas, maybe we look at a real estate investment, maybe we look at some of these other things, because we need to get that done before the end of the year, and obviously quite a long time before the end of the year, because and also it comes back to the whole thing is, what about it? Maybe we want to do a retirement plan, or which, certain retirement plans we've got to get activated before the end of the year. So that needs to be in place. And so you have to get that stuff planned. So you have to start that now.
So what would you say, get your accounting records, just again, getting their financial infrastructure in order? What are the specific documents? Like if they're going to go minimum, what's the minimum that you need to file a proper tax return? So obviously bank statements, what else would be added to that list?
What I'm going to say the minimum is, and what reality is probably, I would say a profit and loss is minimum. And so a profit and loss can be as simple as you going through your bank statements, writing down on a piece of paper total revenues, different categories of expenses. You've got to go through that at minimum. And then plus getting any and all tax documents, anything, because third-party investment companies or other companies send you tax documents. Getting those all together, because that's how it gives us a little bit of history and tells us what's going on. That is the absolute minimum of what you need.
Okay. And any other questions? Thomas, do you have questions that are out there? Some of you said, how do you reach Weldon? I said, connect with Damon, or if you are a Big Table client, you have my phone, text with me. And any other questions going on in any social channels?
There was one in the Q&A. I don't think we covered this one to make sure. Should startups S-Corp with low profits due to COVID revenue loss still pay themselves a W-2 salary this year in case there's another PPP government loan offered?
Basically, the question is should you pay a salary just in case if there's another PPP loan?
But if you had low profits due to COVID revenue loss?
Yeah. Even if you have a loss, people are going to hate your foot. It depends. Can't afford to pay the payroll taxes on the wages that you pay? No, you shouldn't do that. But if you can afford to pay the payroll taxes, yeah, you might want to reduce the amount of payroll. But no, I think you should still have a payroll. And not just because of the PPP, but there are other factors in that. It kind of documents that you're really trying to be a business. I mean, you're running it as if it is a true viable business. And so that way, if you're running at a loss, you have the ability to deduct that without really kind of questioning.
There's Damon's phone number, so you can text him if you want an appointment. What would you say towards the end of the year? Is there end of the year planning that, typically it's a little more on the entity side and getting your entity set up? Any other, kind of tax planning? And what do they do as they head into 2021, given what we've been through this year?
Keep your fingers crossed.
Right?
No, I mean, because of the governments being either shut down or extremely slow, I think this year it's really, really key to start this sooner than later. And yeah, I mean, it does take a little bit longer to process things. So if you're coming in December and, expect to get a retirement plan and, the entity set up, it probably won't happen. Everybody procrastinates. And so unfortunately, it happens every single year, even though we say this every single year, don't do this. People still do it. Get up off your couch, get busy, get your stuff in order because you need to plan for it, especially this year. Otherwise, you'll pass down again.
Well, and how would they even catch up? I mean, I think that's been a question for a lot of people. I mean, it's so far behind in every category. I mean, the DMV's 90 days to 120 days, depending on the state. I know just like our marijuana licenses, that's been a 90 to, again, 120 day delay. So how does the IRS or any of these agencies, anywhere, wherever they are in the world, do they just hit a reset button? Say, we're going to open the doors and everybody come to the doors? Like, it's going to be crazy.
I can tell you this. I've amended a few returns and mailed them in because I'm anticipating the fact that when they get through this, they're going to be trying to go through this so fast that they're just going to process everything through and push everything as much as possible through. If you're looking at amended returns, I think now's the time to do it.
I know. We need to talk about that too. Karen says, I have several trusts. So do I need a sole corporation as opposed to an S or a C? I don't know if there's such a thing as a sole corporation. Do you know what you're talking about?
Is a corporation. You're either a C corporation or you're an S corporation. I mean, you file as a corporation and then you make an election with the IRS to become an S, which the only difference between those is the S corp, it flows its income down to you personally or to the owners.
Well, and I know Karen's situation. So I would say if you're thinking of, the mine and the product from the mine and it's in Nevada, we're not huge fans of California being over there. But the operating company should be inside the corporation, probably your C Corp, and then attached to your trust as a generational flow through.
And I mean, there are limitations as far as S corporations of who can be an owner of an S Corp. You can't have a C Corp be an owner of an S Corp. And so there are some limitations there. So you just have to be aware of that.
You can't have a C Corp be an owner of S Corp? Interesting.
Be an owner of a partnership.
Interesting. Tiffany wants to know if you just created an entity and you were a regular W-2 employee from January to April, what would be a tax strategy to tax high level? Not sure. So I know her situation. She was a pretty high paid W-2 employee. Mm-hmm. So her entity really needs to be functioning from April, like May till now, probably take a loss, right? So what's the strategy for her?
It's trying to get as much of the expenses and deductions into that entity as possible versus running it as a W-2 employee. And, depending on when that was filed and when that was set up, we can take a look at that and kind of come up with a specific strategy.
And then Debbie says, can you tell if an LLC has filed taxes with the IRS? Not the return, just that they have been filed. Not sure what that's.
If something has been filed with the IRS, we can figure out if a tax return has been filed with the IRS.
Okay. You have to ask Debbie your big table. So just contact Damon to get over to Weldon. Same with you, Tiffany. All right. Anything else they need to know, Weldon? As far as the one question I would just say is how do they find a good bookkeeper? That's everyone's question. Because I know you, you're not the guy to send a big box of shit to. That's not going to work out. That's not a Weldon kind of. There are people you can do that for, but that is not him. So what would you tell them about where to send that box for some people who need to start with the box?
That is the $1 million question. If anybody wants to go into an industry that is in high demand, that there's not a lot of people that produce a good product, it's a great position to be in. You just have to be super organized and diligent. Well, thanks for putting me on the spot for this one. Some people, and it really kind of depends on the business. So I would say a lot of people want to have a person come in and physically be there. You're going to have to interview them. You could hire them as an employer, as a contractor. You need to do a lot of research on what they've done. Look at some of their other work. I mean, look at give them their process, because there's a lot of people that can go in and mess things up worse than what you have it. But when you do find a good person, there's people that can do it virtually if you're not afraid of your information being out there. I mean, talk to their existing clients, make sure that you're not the only client. Talk to their existing clients, get their feedback on it.
Yep. It's a rough one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Thomas. Anything else in any of the other social channels before we let Weldon go for today?
That's all we have on the chat side and the Q&A side. Steve, anything on the social channels we missed?
Nope, I think we're good. The only other thing that I would like to invite everybody to do is just visit our new calendar on the events page on Integrated Wealth Systems, so you can get a better view of what we got going on month to month. So just go visit integratedwealthsystems.com and hit events, and you will see that brand new calendar.
Yep. And it is loaded into every, like today at 4:00, everyone in the big table, you have your laser call at 4, and the 100K calls are up there, fast cash calls are up there. So you should all know exactly like what's going on week by week. Plus the guys put out a great weekly event of what's coming up every week. Next Tuesday on our broadcast, Scott will be on talking more detail about entities. I would say that is going to be kind of a 911 to get to the finish line. And then Jason, who's out here, will be talking about insurance, and then wills and trusts. Again, those are date sensitive. Joe will be up also talking about qualified plans. I think that's one question just from a tax perspective. Well, then what's your opinion about, the solos, the self-directed IRAs? I know Tiffany comes from, has some 401ks that got left behind in her prior companies that are moving. What's your opinion about putting the qualified plan up, and should it be more of the C Corp, or should it be in the operating company? How does that help in the deductions?
Yeah, so you want to, as far as the retirement plan, you need it attached to an operating company or a company that's going to have some revenues in there, so you can utilize those revenues to make your contributions. But as far as the self-directed plans versus a traditional, the amount of stuff for the cost, because obviously the self-directed are a little bit more expensive, but for the cost of a self-directed plan, the amount of stuff you can invest in versus the traditional, you can't compare them. So if you're at any kind of upper income level and considered a accredited investor, you need to have a self-directed retirement plan. I personally like the 401k, the solo 401k, just because you can contribute quite a bit of money to it. It's voluntary. You don't have to necessarily do it each year. Get the self-directed. If you're just starting out, getting some kind of plan is a great opportunity as well, but have something, even if it's just a simple automatic deduction, but create something that you're getting used to putting money away. Okay. Investing.
Yep. And the one thing I want to add, and Pamela had a question, if you want to put, I know Randy won't want a direct contact, but how do you use the Flip platform? There are a lot of people who've been using it more as their bank, and your company can have a Flip account as well. So it has a wealth trading account. What's your kind of thought on that? Well, then I know some of our clients have just their own personal cash account, right, under their own social number. They put a Flip account for their business, right, as a way to have any cash that they have as investable. And with the agreement that it's like a 48-hour liquidation. And then obviously their Roth account could have a Flip, their solo could have a Flip. So I think that people aren't realizing there's those different kinds of money. What's your thought on having a company have that as an account for short-term investing?
Yeah, the key thing is the person who's in charge of it. If you've got somebody in charge of it that pays attention to their company, absolutely. You've got somebody that's in charge of it that doesn't pay attention to their company, doesn't, have the accounting systems in place, doesn't have that infrastructure in place. It could be disastrous, because now if they do put it in, they don't watch it, something happens. Again, the whole idea is you've got to pay attention to this stuff. But no, it can be a great opportunity and a great, short-term investment tool for your company. Yep,
would agree. And so, Pam, I think if you want to just put give Randy's email, I guess, Thomas, so Pam can get some help. But they have a ton of tutorials to that point. iFlip has a great platform of tutorials, of lessons. They have weekly calls you can go to. So you just have to engage deeper into their platform to get the help you need. So, Weldon, thank you. Appreciate your time. We're just going to stay on and give a few more updates of what's going on for the rest of the day and the rest of the week. Appreciate you, and we'll talk soon.
All right, guys. We'll see you later.
Thank you. So again, I put into the chat the laser call 4 to 5 today for all Big Table members, even if you are brand new, with Corey, Brad, or Laura from the event. and you're even in the process of signing contracts, just make sure you get to Damon. So I think, Thomas, they can go straight to the event page and then click there, and it takes them. That's where they get their links for anything on the calendar, correct? It's all hot wired.
Yeah. So when they go to the event, they see something about the Kansas City field trip. They can click in, see the information. They see the big table. They have the hotel booking link. It's all right there. Good to go.
Awesome. And tonight, and you do not have to have been at the event to attend, at 5:30, tonight's 5:30, correct? We have Victor on?
I'm checking right now. It's at 5:30 p.m. Pacific.
Yep. So 5:30, 6:30 be a formal presentation on Facebook ads. So many people have wanted to get to know about it. And he presented just briefly in Zapter hours. And any of you and all of you are welcome to attend and get just a great presentation on what you need to be doing and how you could either do it yourself. He has a program to do that, or you can hire him to do it, which would be the right answer. Because a lot of you, Thomas coaches a lot. Steve does our calls, all of us left on here. A lot of your, I'm going to say, slowness or staggering is because you keep trying to do everything yourself. You keep trying to do your own website. You try to do your own ClickFunnels. You try to do your own Keep. You're trying to do your own Facebook ads. You got to get a team. There's plenty of people out here for reasonable rates that you can hire to do all that for you. Couldn't imagine if you were at the helm having to do that all day. And a lot of you need to be focused on your ask, tell, ask, and your sales versus that. So again, today, big day today, 4:00 and 5:30, two very different calls, laser calls. Bring any question you have. And 5:30 will be a presentation from Victor, and we will go from there. Next week, again, every Tuesday at 5 broadcast. If you do have questions more and more throughout the week, we were going to be coming live and doing some Ask Laurels and coming live to you on Facebook. Thursday, we're going to do some of that as well. So if you want to be available and live and ask some questions, especially over on the YouTube channel or the LinkedIn channels, Terry is out and taking a great care of all those questions. And just the more you engage, this cannot be a flat one-directional answer. It's too tough. I have too many other questions to your question to make sure that I'm answering your proper question without some assumptions and the angles. And usually I need to know 4 or 5 more things than what you just asked to really help understand what you're really wanting. So watch for those. We will give some heads up during the day that will be coming live, and we will get you folks ready and prepped. And where will the broadcast after 5 be? What's that one?
That's going to be at asklaurel.com/marketing. That's going to be, again, the webinar with Victor, 5:30 to 6:30. It's asklaurel.com/marketing. It's up in the chat box. I'll go ahead and paste it again so you all have that.
All right. We will see you this afternoon again. Have a great afternoon, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks for listening to the Real Money Talks podcast. Your host has been Laurel Langmeyer, author of 5 New York Times bestsellers, money expert on Dr. Phil, CNN, CNBC, The Street TV, Fox News, and The View. Want to learn more about off-Wall Street investing, tax strategies, and multi-million-dollar business strategies? Visit liveoutloud.com/podcast for past episodes, show notes, and resources. For some special wealth-building gifts only for Laurel's podcast listeners, visit liveoutloud.com/podcast gifts. Do you have a burning question for Laurel? Visit asklaurel.com to submit your question, and it may just be covered on a podcast episode. So stay tuned and be sure to subscribe to get new episodes every week.